Okay, welcome my dear friends. In the last lecture, we were discussing about the equivalence class partitioning based on the unit testing. And we had also said that the equivalence class based unit testing, by observing the input and output data, we analyze the input and output data, and determine the equivalence classes. Once we identify the equivalence classes, we just take one data from the each equivalence class and that forms our test suite. But the main question that we were trying to address is that how do we go about identifying the equivalence classes? Uh, so now let's continue our discussion further to identify the equivalence classes. We always can say that there are two types of equivalence classes. One is the valid set of equivalences classes and other is the invalid set. The first task is to identify what is the valid equivalence classes and what are the invalid equivalences classes. Once we identify these two equivalence classes, then we can identify further the equivalence classes which are valid and further equivalence classes which are the invalid. We have just represented here that once we identify the valid and invalid equivalence classes, we can identify further the multiple valid equivalence classes and multiple invalid equivalence classes. So next, once we do that, we can pick any value from each of this and that will form our test cases. But then the question is that how does one be sure that he has identified all the valid and all the invalid equivalence classes? It is more to do with the practice. Identify equivalence classes is not really trivial, that you just look at the problem and then say that these are the valid and these are the invalid. You need to analyze the problem, and based on the experience of solving the many problems, we can say that which are the valid and which are the invalid equivalence classes. But unless we have enough practice, it is likely that we might miss out some of the equivalence classes, and therefore the equivalence class testing may not be done very thoroughly. So let's take a start with some very simple examples. Here, see how to go about designing the equivalence class test. The simplest example is only one input data, let's say an integer number between 1 to 5000. So this is the range of values. Therefore, we have one valid equivalence class that is within 1 and 5000, and there are two invalid equivalence classes. One is the greater than 5000 and other is the less than 1. Now let's say a function takes a set of values a, b and c. Then these letters are valid and anything else is invalid. So we have two equivalence classes. One is the valid equivalence classes where we give a value of a, b and c, and there is a invalid equivalence classes which gave a value other than the a, b, c, and maybe d or something other than this. Let's take another example where we have a function named as a square root which takes a value input value in the range of 1 to 5000 and produce the some square root. So the input value, by observing, we find that there is a one valid equivalence class and two is the invalid equivalence class. So the valid equivalence class is anything between 1 to 5000 and one invalid equivalence class is anything more than the 5000. Then other invalid equivalence class is the set of negative numbers. Then we take one representative value from each equivalence class. So one negative value, one value which is invalid, and one value which is more than the valid value, which is the 6000, and the largest valid value is the 5000. So these three values form a equivalence class test for this simple problem. Now consider the another example. Let's say we have a function. The name of a function is the issue book, and it takes the ID of a book, maybe the ISBN number or something as a parameter. Then it issue the book. Can we identify the equivalence class for this function? We intuitively know how the issue book works. Just take a book and then it issue the book. The member of the course. We have the valid and invalid set of this. A valid book ID and an invalid book ID. But then among the valid book ID, what are the equivalence classes? One is that it is an issuable book and it is the issued out. If it is a reference book, then the behavior is different. So we'll say that the reference book cannot be issued out. Among the issuable book, it may be a single valuable book or a multiple volume book. If it is a single volume book, may say it may just issue out. If it is a multiple volume book, it is may say that you have to take all the volumes together. So the valid equivalence classage, we might say that there are three of this. We need to pick first for the single volume book, first data item input data for the multiple volume book and another for the reference book. So for this example, there are three equivalence classes: reference book, multiple volume, single volume, and there will be a invalid class. Now let's look at another example. Let's say we have a function name of a function. Name of the function is the fetch image. We give a URL, that is the website address, and the function fetches the image and the returns the image. So based on the simple description, what are the equivalence classes? One is of course the valid set and another is the invalid set. But I am just asking what are the set of valid equivalence classes for this fetch image. One equivalence class may be that whatever the URL is giving in terms using the HTTP or HTTPS, FTP, or it is a local file. So we need to these are the set of equivalence classes based on how the URL is defined. But then for some problem which might have another definition of the equivalence class, I what is the type of image, and is it the HTML image, is it a GIF image, is it a JPG image, or is it a plain text image? So observe here that for same one parameter we have two equivalence classes that can be defined. So for the valid set of equivalence classes, one is based on the URL protocol and the second is based on the file type. And for the URL we have HTTP, HTTPS, FTP, file, or based on the image type we have HTML, GIF, JPG, plain text, etc. This form of our set of valid equivalence classes. We need to pick one value from the each of equivalence class. The point that I want to emphasize here is that there may be different ways in which we might define the valid equivalence classes. We need to look at all the characteristics of the input data. Just like here, one characteristics was the type of the protocol used. The second is the type of image file that is used. But then so far we have been looking at the simple cases of the function taking a unit or taking just one parameter. But what happens if a unit takes multiple parameters? Let's say we have a function called as the post grade. That is the teacher wants to post the grade, and the post grade function takes three parameters. One is the roll number, the second parameter is the course number, and the third one parameter is grade obtained. In this case we can define equivalence classes for each of these parameters here for the unit. But then while giving the parameter three values of a parameter, do we test it for all the possible combinations of these, or do we select one or for a specific value of this? Now let us answer this question. But not only the number of parameters, but also a function might use some global variables. Look at the function postgrade. Let's say it uses a normalization factor while computing the grade. While posting the grade, not only the teacher defines the roll, course number, and grade, but internally it does a normalization by using a normalization factor. In that case, we need to consider all the possible equivalence classes that may be defined for the normalization factor variable. Therefore, we will have four sets of equivalence classes here. For this function, we need to consider combination of the values for various equivalence classes. But then again, the questions remains that how do we define the combinations of the values that we have chosen for the each equivalence class? Do we consider all the possible combinations adjustably for each parameter, or what do we do? Let's try to address these questions. So we will continue with the next lecture, and today we will end here. Okay, thank you.